field, just a home run ball, and it is tipped off. And Lewis got it on the deflection. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Pump fake into the end zone. Uzama, touchdown, Auburn! Here comes touchdown, Auburn!
So what we got, Spice episode 5, Auburn, Malzahn, Rhett, Lashlee. I focus on the offensive side of the ball. What I'm going to start doing is just focusing on what teams do well out of their base. I know teams do a lot of different things better, but what I want to focus more so on is what they do best, the top 4 or 5 principles, because teams aren't really getting outside of them top 4 or 5 principles nowadays. And it shows how simplified some of these. The beauty of this is it's going to show you when you watch teams play how simplified some of the offenses are, but how hard they are to stop at the same time. And so Rhett Lashlee is the offensive coordinator, but Malzahn has a heavy influence. He's an offensive guy, ex-high school coach. They went to Arkansas State and did numbers in the year off, the hiatus, when they won that natty with Cam Newton. They were kind of, I'm sorry, not they, but Gus was kind of the brains behind the operation. What you're going to see here is what they do best. I'm going to break down their top 4 principles. And normally with teams, you're not going to have to get too far outside of that. So heavy misdirection, read option, and they create a lot of different problems with formation. So if you look at what they did in 2013 versus 2014, they weren't as successful in 2014 as 13. In 13, they had Jay Prosh, who's now with the Houston Texans, and he was a true one of the last few true lead blockers that's out there. And what they did was they ran the same concepts, which I'm gonna break down a little bit later, with that H back in the backfield. So it's more of a 2-back, 2 wide, actually 3-back when you motion Corey Grant or one of those other guys in the backfield. So it's more of a 30 personnel type grouping as opposed to what they did this year. Actually, what they did more so of in 2014, a lot of what they do depends on personnel. Uzama was more of their guy. I don't think he was as good as Prosh, and I think they had more receivers, mainly led by number 1, the JUCO cat, who they throw a lot of vertical routes to. So when they had the H-back in the backfield, they were more effective. When they had that mesh with the misdirection, they could have run the power, the counter, the give, or the read. So they could have really gone in 3 different directions. But let's focus on what they did in 2014, which was the misdirection option trips, their number 1 scheme. Misdirection read option, regular read option, empty to read option, and motion to trips, quads, lead, read option were their top 4 concepts. A lot of it had to do with who their quarterback was, and that's why I like to focus on more so nowadays what they're running instead of who they got, because they're kind of limited by that. But this is their number 1 concept in 2014. It's the same thing that they ran in 2013, except for the fact that they don't have 2 or 3 backs out there. It's either going to be they had more versatile receivers who could kind of take that triple option fake, but when they motion that guy over, instead of having Jay Prosh in the backfield, they're still reading the regular read option, give or keep. But what they're doing is they're doing it with the receiver, and they were doing it with more of a spread look. It's just less of a hat to block. So it's not like it's too much different, but I feel like they were a lot more effective on the inside run game the previous year. So if you look at kind of what they're doing here in some of these plays, a lot of it is out of trips, and a lot of it they're going to motion to the misdirection option. and they're reading that defensive end. As you can see on the bottom here, he crashed. He probably should have kept that and went with the lead read. So you can run the lead read, or you can run like kind of the true triple. And as you can see on these plays here, they gave it on the majority of them, but they kept it on some of the other ones. This is not a true triple. This is more of a lead read with that guy coming in motion. So um, they're going the other direction here out of trips. Like I said, out of trips is kind of tough. The quarterback did keep it here, but the defensive end did a good job of playing that. But as you can see, they run this literally all game. Gus Malzahn and Rhett Lashlee are kind of stubborn play callers, so if you don't stop something, they're going to keep running it, whether it's spread, read option, whether it's this. They keep it very simplified, but the key thing is that they really focus more on the run game than a lot of the other teams we went over. They don't have as many design passes. They're not really good when they're in the third and obvious situations. They're actually more of like a Georgia Tech than a Texas A&M or a TCU, but they're out of the gun. So, 2 by 2, they're going to run a lot of read option, and they run this in bunches. So I've seen different games where they've run this 4 or 5 plays in a row. They're kind of streaky on the play calling. So if you don't stop it, they're going to keep running it. So he's running it right here. This is Nick Marshall, who's gone. Their guy this year is supposed to be a little bit better in the passing game, but Nick Marshall did a good job, man. I mean, you can't really hate on too much of what the guy did, because they asked him to run the read option and do things that worked in his favor. So here's the 2 by 2 read option again. They're reading 47 at the bottom, and they gave because he wasn't in position to make the tackle on this one. I probably would have kept that. Now you have to be very wary, because at the same time they may not be reading some of these, but at the same time it looks the exact same. And only the offensive play caller knows what they're really running in some of these situations. There's only a few of them where you can't really tell, but they're clearly reading somebody on the vast majority of what they run out of 2 by 2. So keep that in mind. And as you can see against Mississippi State, they ran that a bunch. The third most common theme that they run is empty read option. They're going to go empty. They're going to motion the back in the backfield. So it's one back. It's no tight end. And that's 10 personnel. So if you look at it like this, they're going to run the read option out of that. And it fucks you up because they do a few passes out of option, and they actually they do a few passes out of empty. They do also motion to empty and from empty, but for the most part, when they motion from empty to a 2 by 2 out of gun, they're going to run this read option. So that backer that was over the back gets in the box, and as you can see here, they're going to read I think they're reading that backer. That may not have actually been a read. The key thing is it really doesn't matter. It all looks the same because they run this ad nauseum. So here they're going to actually read the defensive end up top. So they could have given or kept that. You pretty much eliminate a defensive end there. And I think that was the guy, I forgot the guy, Danielle Hunter, I believe, out of LSU, who's a freak athlete. They're going to do it right here. They're going to read the DN at the bottom. That's definitely a give read, in my opinion, and he gave it there. So they do this an awful lot. Against Mississippi State, I feel like they do this a lot against teams that they know they can't block, and they did that against Mississippi State a lot. So, yeah, Gus Malzahn is spicy little motherfucker for this. Empty to the read option. And the fourth is what I think they run the best, and I think they did this a little bit better in 2013 with the H-back, is the trips to quads. So they create hats to run the lead read option, and they can actually run some play action off of it, which I'm going to start off with right here. But the main thing is that they're going to actually run the play here. So if they come out in any kind of bunch or trip set with the running back, you got to be very aware of the personnel, regardless of where they line up. It's very NFL-like because, if you have a fullback or a running back lined up out wide, they're probably not going to be running some base shit. They're probably going to be motioning back in the backfield to run some true shit instead of some empty shit. So as you can see right here, they line up kind of in the same set and they run the draw. They don't do this very often. They did this a little bit more in 2013. But as you can see, like this is a true receiver here. This is Quan Bray coming in motion, and they're going to run the QB power the other way. So anytime they're bringing a guy in motion and they've got quads or trips, so they're creating 2 or 3 backs in the backfield, it's going to be a lead or a read option. And as you can see up top, they're going to run this right here too. So this is more of a QB power as well. You have way too many hats, and I kind of think that's what Gus does best is gets hats in position. They're going to do it the opposite direction here, but this was 2013. The lead read option was one of their main plays on 2nd and 3rd down, but they did it with less, with 2 backs in the backfield. Here they try to run it here against Mississippi State. They actually give it to the guy that's coming in motion. But I think it makes it a little bit hard to stop some of the receivers and running back. Receivers who can run like running backs. So it's a little bit more spread. It's less people to block. So there's nothing wrong with that. And then the final 2 things that they do to complement those few things for the most part. I know there's outliers here and there, but their vertical passing game is really just a verticals concept. Their true pass game is a verticals concept. It's 4 vert. It's a hitch on the outside if it's 3rd and manageable, 2nd and manageable. With the inside hooking up, but they're really gonna put number 1 Adams. Wait, is his name Adams? The JUCO cat, the big cat. They're gonna put him in the slot and almost run him on an inside seam like Jimmy Graham and throw the back shoulder fade, cut inside of that corner and just make a play on the ball. That's what they really don't try to do too much in the pass game, and they're not really that good at it. But run wise, they're probably one of the best, if not the best team in the country. And then 2x2. Run pass reads, which we've seen. Hope you enjoyed the video, man. I don't want to break down the run pass reads too much because you guys have seen this 4 times now. But basically 2x2, the O-line is run blocking, and the quarterback has the freedom to throw the bubble trips. They're gonna run stick with an X tag to the opposite side. So they do run this as well. Let me know what you think as far as who has the most bullets in the chamber as of yet. I don't know. It might be Auburn. It might be who has the best quarterback. It might be has the best personnel. But let me know.